Hey guys, tonight we're going to rewind the clock and put you in a situation no one ever wanted, but thousands couldn't avoid. It's 1968. You're 19. You live in a sleepy suburb where the most stressful decision you've made all week is whether to get fries or onion rings with your burger. Then one afternoon, your mom knocks on your bedroom door holding a nondescript envelope with your name on it. No stamps, no fancy lettering, just a return address from the Selective Service System. You already know what it is. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You crack the seal. Your stomach sinks. It's not a draft notice, not yet, but it's a reminder that you're registered, eligible, and your number could be called at any time. And unless you've got a college deferment, a medical condition, or a senator for an uncle, you're fair game. You stay at the page like it might change if you read it hard enough. A few weeks later, it comes. The real thing. Greetings. That's how it starts. What a word. Like they're inviting you to a picnic. It might as well say congratulations. You've won a one-way trip to hell. You're expected to report for induction. You've got 10 days. You break the news to your parents. Your dad is stoic, maybe a little proud. Your mom blinks too often and keeps asking if it's reversible. You can't really answer her. Your friends try to act tough, make dumb jokes about Canadian winters. But you're not laughing. You start packing. Not much. You're told to bring the basics. A toothbrush, a pair of underwear, maybe a razor, though you barely need one. You're still boy-faced, but not for long. You kiss your girlfriend goodbye at the bus station. She says she'll write. You both know that doesn't mean forever. On the bus to the processing center, everyone's silent. You're a dozen scared kids in denim jackets, all pretending you're just going on a class trip. One guy mutters that is going to fake epilepsy during the medical exam. Someone else whispers about jabbing a pencil into his own foot. You chuckle, but it's dry, because none of you are sure what you're willing to do to not go. And you're about to find out. You get off at a big beige building with too many windows and not enough comfort. The signs all say MEPs, Military Entrance Processing Station. Inside, it's fluorescent lights, barking staff sergeants, and clipboards. So many clipboards. First, there's the physical exam. You strip down in a room full of strangers, marching around in your boxes like a confused duck parade. A doctor with cold hands checks everything. Vision, hearing, reflexes, and yes, down there too. You cough on command and try not to make eye contact with the guy doing the checking. They draw blood, test urine, make you do duck walks across a tile floor that echoes too much. You overhear someone joke that if you twitch your eye hard enough, they'll send you home. Another guy tries it. They don't. Once you're pronounced fit for duty, and most are, despite bad backs and worse nerves, you're handed a stack of forms and a pen. You sign your name more times than you did on your SATs. Now comes the psychological test. A booklet of bizarre questions. Do you ever feel like people are watching you? Do you hear voices no one else hears? You answer no to everything, even the ones that make you pause. Because you know if you mess this up, they might delay your induction. And that's somehow worse than getting it over with. Then, there's the moment. The lineup. You stand shoulder to shoulder with other draftees in a beige-walled room that smells like Lysol and nerves. A stern officer walks in, holding a script. Raise your right hand. You do. Do you solemnly swear? And just like that, you're a soldier. Well, almost. You've officially been drafted into the United States Army. You don't feel any different. You're still the kid who played baseball and watched Bonanza on Sunday nights. But now, the government owns you. Your name tag will say U.S. Army, and your free time will belong to Uncle Sam. They give you a sandwich wrapped in wax paper. It's ham and cheese, slightly warm. Tastes like cardboard. You eat it anyway. There's no champagne toast for this rite of passage. The bus to basic training leaves in the morning. You're assigned to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Never been to Missouri? You're about to get real familiar with it. And yes, they call it Fort Lost in the Woods. That's not a joke. It's painfully accurate. You try to sleep in the barracks that night. A communal room with 30 other guys and zero privacy. Someone snores like a chainsaw. Another guy quietly cries into his pillow. You stare at the ceiling tiles and wonder how fast you'll break. Historians still argue whether the draft was a necessary evil or a catastrophic injustice. But you're not thinking in terms of geopolitics. You're thinking about how your life just hit a dead-end D2 sign, and nobody's handing out a map. And the funny thing? Somewhere in the back of your mind, you still hope it's all an elaborate mistake. That maybe you will wake up, it'll be summer break again, and your biggest worry will be asking Becky to prom. But the morning comes, and the only thing waiting for you is a uniform that doesn't fit, a haircut you didn't ask for, and a new reality where the stakes are measured in bullets. You awake before the sun, dragged from sleep by a voice that sounds like it's been soaked in coffee and gravel. Rise and shine, ladies. You got a bus to catch. There's no snooze button here. No mom making pancakes downstairs. Just the hard reality of fluorescent lights flickering to life and 30 guys scrambling to get dressed at the same time. You pull on yesterday's clothes, stuff your toothbrush into your back pocket, and shuffle downstairs with the others. Outside, 2 gray buses wait like steel coffins. The air smells faintly of diesel and cold coffee. You heard it on board, and the doors hiss shut. No one speaks. The drive to Fort Leonard Wood takes hours. Trees blur by. Fields stretch out like wallpaper. You zone out to the rhythm of the engine, try not to think about what's next. But the tension rides the bus with you. A quiet fog of worry hanging in the air like mist on a horror movie set. Eventually, you arrive. And the second you step off the bus, reality slams into you. A man in a campaign hat appears out of nowhere, like a drill sergeant summoned by your fear. He's not yelling yet. Not really. But his voice carries the weight of command, and it booms across the lot like thunder. You are no longer individuals. You are my property now. You breathe when I say breathe. You think he's exaggerating. He is not. The next 48 hours are a blur of forms, pokes, orders, and humiliation. You're handed your first uniform, which fits like it was made for a scarecrow. Olive drab everything, socks included. You trade in your sneakers for boots that feel like bricks strapped to your feet. One kid asks for a half size up. The supply guy doesn't even look up from his clipboard. Then comes the haircut. You're marched into a room where a man with no facial expression shaves your head in 15 seconds flat. No, how do you want it? No chat about the weather. Just the whirring of clippers and the growing pile of hair on the linoleum floor. You run your hand over your scalp afterward and feel like a peeled egg. You glance at the guy next to you. He was a shaggy-haired rebel type on the bus. Now he looks 12. You all do. Later, in the chow hall, you meet your first meal ready to eject. It's supposed to be beef stew. It looks like dog food, tastes like wet cardboard, and somehow still manages to give you heartburn. You sit across from a guy who introduces himself only as Tank. He's from Alabama, built like a refrigerator, and eats like one too. You learn fast to guard your cornbread. Sleep that first night doesn't come easy. Not just because of the beds, narrow, spring-loaded slabs with pillows made of despair, but because your brain won't shut up. You keep replaying everything. The bus ride, the haircut, the barked orders. You wonder if Tank's snoring is actually some sort of primitive bear call. Morning comes fast and hard. Drill sergeants burst into the barracks like they are storming Normandy. You're out of bed in 5 seconds flat, or you'll get intimately acquainted with push-ups. You brush your teeth in a line of 30 guys, trying not to gag on the army-issue toothpaste that tastes like chalk and mint had a nasty divorce. You're not even allowed to walk like a normal person anymore. Every movement is marching, precision, timing. You're told where to stand, how to stand, when to blink. Okay, not that last one, but it feels that way. Then comes PT, physical training. It's like gym class, but if the gym teacher hated you and was legally allowed to destroy your soul. Push-ups, sit-ups, runs that never seem to end. Your lungs burn, your muscles shake. A drill sergeant yells. Pain is weakness leaving the body. You're pretty sure your weakness has formed a union and is staging a full-blown protest. You're introduced to military drills, marching in formation, learning to turn on command, salute properly, shout yes, drill sergeant, with enough gusto to wake the dead. There's no individuality, no flay. You're one cog in a very tired, very sweaty machine. You learn quickly that questions are a trap. Ask something dumb. Push-ups. Look confused. Push-ups exist in the wrong part of the barracks. You guessed it, push-ups. One kid tries to be funny and ends up doing so many his elbows give out. The rest of you take note. There's a moment, just one, where you think it might be manageable. After a long day, you and your platoon are given 5 whole minutes of downtime. You sit on your cot, shoes off, chugging warm water from your canteen like it's a cocktail. Someone makes a joke. For a moment, everyone laughs. Then a drill sergeant walks in and ruins it all. Apparently, someone left their footlocker unlocked. Collective punishment kicks in. You spend the next hour running wind sprints up and down a muddy hill, dragging each other, tripping over roots. Your socks squish in your boots, and your pride oozes out like rainwater. Historians still argue whether this kind of discipline built character or just trauma. But in the moment, you're not thinking about character. You're thinking about how your toenails are probably going to fall off before you even see Vietnam. Oh, and speaking of Vietnam, they don't talk about it much yet. Just vague comments like, you need to be ready. As if ready were a thing you could ever be for that. One night, you sneak a look in the bathroom mirror. The kid staring back looks familiar, but different. The face is thinner. The eyes, a little harder. You've got a red scrape on your chin from crawling under barbed wire during training, and a blister the size of Texas on your heel. And you've only been here a week. Sleep eventually comes. Not because you're relaxed, but because exhaustion wraps around you like a wet blanket. You dream of normal things. Your street back home. The smell of a barbecue. Your girlfriend's laugh. But even in the dream, something feels off. Like a countdown clock ticking in the background. Because deep down, you know this is only the beginning. And the hardest parts haven't even started. You start to lose track of days. There's no calendar on the wall, no weekend to look forward to, and no one's giving you a schedule to stick on the fridge. The army doesn't care if it's Tuesday or Christmas Eve. It just cares that you show up, shut up, and don't pass out on the obstacle course. Speaking of which, today's surprise is a real gem, the confidence course. It's a sadistic playground designed by someone who clearly hated joy. Walls to climb, rope bridges to wobble across, tunnels to belly crawl through. You line up behind Tank, who looks like he could smash through the course like the Kool-Aid Man, and try not to tremble. The first obstacle is a sheer wooden wall, 12 feet high. No ladder, no handholds, just you, your slippery palms, and gravity's cruel indifference. You get a running start, jump, catch the top, and nope. You slide down like a drop popsicle. The second time, with a grunt and a push from Tank's meaty hand, you make it over. Congratulations, your drill sergeant shouts with a smirk. You just survived a wall. The jungle is gonna love you. Everyone groans, but deep down, you kind of love it too. You're sore, bruised, filthy, but you're doing things you didn't know you could. Even if your reward is another 10 push-ups for smiling without permission. Over the next few weeks, the training intensifies. You learn to shoot an M14 rifle. It's heavy, loud, and smells like oil and powder. Your shoulder throbs after every round. But when you hit the bullseye for the first time, your chest swells with a pride you didn't expect. Still, the sergeants are always watching, always shouting. You learn to disassemble and reassemble your weapon blindfolded. Because in war, you won't get the luxury of good lighting or spare parts. You memorize the parts by touch, bolt, chamber, barrel, until it's muscle memory. Then there's the gas chamber. Oh yes, that charming rite of passage. You line up with your platoon outside a squat cinder block building. The sergeant grins like he's about to introduce you to his pet cobra. Inside, the air is thick and ominous. You wear your gas mask and stand in a fog of CS gas while he explains the importance of sealing it properly. Then, he tells you to remove it. What follows is not fun. Your lungs rebel instantly. Your throat closes. Your eyes leak like broken faucets. Your nose runs like it's trying to escape your face. One guy pukes. Another starts screaming obscenities between coughs. which earns him a bonus lap around the barracks once he can breathe again. You stumble out gasping, clutching your knees, and laughing in that slightly deranged way that only total sensory overload can bring. Congrats! You just survived the military's idea of a spa day. During classroom hours, you're taught about booby traps, jungle tactics, and Charlie, the Viet zone. They talk about punji sticks and tripwires like they're everyday nuisances. There's even a film strip narrated in that chipper 1950s tone, explaining how to tell if a trail is too quiet. Spoiler alert, if it's too quiet, you're probably already dead. Historians still argue whether this training genuinely prepared draftees or just gave them enough confidence to get themselves killed. You're absorbing everything, because what else can you do? Ignorance doesn't feel like a luxury anymore. By now, the platoon started to bond. There's Frank from Queens, who swears like he's getting paid by the curse. Marcus from Detroit, who hums Motown under his breath when the sergeant's not listening. And of course, Tank, who treats his rifle like it's a beloved family member and has adopted you as his unofficial little brother. You play cards when you can. Write letters home. Every now and then, someone gets a care package. You haven't yet, but Tank shares his cookies, which are slightly melted and somehow still the best thing you've tasted in a month. You also start learning the art of the field bath, which is just code for wiping down your whole body with a damp sock when the showers break, which is often. You smell like feet and soap and despair, but everyone else does too, so it balances out. One night, you get mail. A letter from home. The envelope is bent, the handwriting instantly familiar. Your mom. Inside, she writes about your dog missing you, how the neighbors are asking about you, and how your little brother tried on your old varsity jacket and said is going to be just like you someday. You reread that line a few times. The words are warm but heavy. You tuck the letter into your footlocker like it's made of gold. That night, you dream you're home. You're at the kitchen table, sipping root beer and watching your brother drop marshmallows into his cereal. It's peaceful, but then, in the dream, someone turns the faucet on and gas hisses out instead of water. You wake up sweating, your heart sprinting. You lie there in the dark, trying to slow your breathing, listening to the soft snores and rustles of 30 other boys turned soldiers. You're starting to feel the change. The weight in your chest, the reflex to snap to attention, the way your boots feel more like skin than leather. You're not a civilian anymore, and even though you're still on American soil, a part of you knows the journey is already halfway to Southeast Asia. Every drill, every bruise, every shouted command, it's all been tilting you toward a jungle halfway across the world. One where the trees whisper and the ground bites back. You try not to think about it too much, because tomorrow's the long march. And after that, orders. Your boots hit the ground in rhythm with 50 others, a slap crunch on the gravel trail that seems to stretch forever. This is the long march, a full-day force hike with your full field pack, rifle, helmet, and enough sweat to fill a kiddie pool. They say it's 20 miles. It feels like 200. You breathe in short, controlled gulps, focusing on the man in front of you. Step, step, step. Your gear digs into your shoulders. Your socks are wet from a surprise creek crossing back at mile 6, and your thighs are on fire. Tank grunts occasionally behind you, which is weirdly comforting. If it's still going, you can't quit. Every few miles, you break for water and a lesson. How to set up a perimeter. How to move quietly through brush. How to read a map. One sergeant leads you through a mock ambush drill in a wooded area, shouting directions like a game show host on too much caffeine. You hit the dirt fast when a smoke grenade goes off, purple plumes swirling through the air. It smells like chemicals and panic. Your rifle jams during the drill. You fumble, trying to remember the clearing steps, and the sergeant's already barking at you. You think Charlie's gonna wait for you to remember the manual? Fix it. You finally do, but your confidence crumbles a bit. Later, the same sergeant pulls you aside. He's not yelling now. He just says, better to screw it up here than over there. Then he walks off. You don't know if that's meant to comfort you or scare you more. By mile 15, blisters bloom on your heels and every muscle is screaming. Frank starts singing something vaguely Italian behind you. Marcus joins in with harmonies that turn the whole column into a strange, exhausted choir. Even the sergeants let it slide. For now. It's funny. Just a few weeks ago, these guys were total strangers. Now, their sweat, jokes, and complaints feel like your world. You're not friends in the traditional sense. There's no time for that. But you're a unit. A mess of tired, half-broken, half-built boys trying to become soldiers. At the end of the march, you collapse in a heap. One of the sergeants tosses you a canteen. You didn't die. Good job. Your reward? More drills tomorrow. Around this time, something else starts to creep in. Rumors. Whispers about who's getting deployed next. Names float through the air like ghosts. Some guys are being sent to Germany. Others, Korea. But most, Vietnam. There's a bulletin board outside headquarters with new orders posted every week. It's become a sacred ritual. Finish chow, then check the list. One day, you see your name. You're going. Vietnam. You just stay at it for a while. The letters don't even look real. Like someone typed your life onto a typewriter without asking first. Your stomach turns into a fist. Tank claps you on the shoulder. Guess we're gonna see the jungle. Oh. He smiles, but it doesn't reach his eyes. That night, the barracks are quieter than usual. Letters are written. Cards are played in silence. Someone starts a joke, but it fizzles out. No one wants to be the first to say it, but you all know. This is real now. Deployment prep begins the next morning. You go through medical again. Shots, blood draws, the works. You're issued jungle fatigues, lighter gear, mosquito netting, and a crash course on tropical diseases. Malaria, dysentery, heat stroke, the holy trinity of misery. One instructor cheerfully explains how to identify trench foot by smell. You don't ask how he knows. They also teach you about leeches. Apparently, they love warm, sweaty places. Your boots, your socks, you're you. The sergeant says if you feel a tickle, check it fast, unless you want a new pet. You all laugh, but not really. You're given more weapon training now, this time with the M16. It's lighter than the M14, but jam-prone in humid environments. Just keep it clean, they say, and maybe it'll return the favor. Historians still argue whether the early M16s were battlefield-ready or bureaucratic disaster. You, meanwhile, just hope yours doesn't act up when bullets start flying. One night before shipping out, you're allowed a phone call home. It's short, staticky, but your mom picks up, and for 30 seconds, you're not a soldier. You're just her kid. She says she's proud. She says to write. She says your brother keeps wearing your jacket. You hang up before your voice cracks. Later that night, you're sitting out back near the supply shed. Frank is flicking a lighter open and shut. Marcus is writing a letter under the faint yellow glow of a security light. And Tank is staring at the stars. You ask him if he's scared. He doesn't answer at first. Then he shrugs and says, "Yeah, but I'm more scared of not making it back." You nod, because that part, you get. The last day of basic is surreal. You march one last time, salute one last time, and then, somewhat awkwardly, you're told good luck and handed your travel packet. That's it. No music, no confetti, just a bus schedule and orders that feel too heavy for the envelope they're in. On the way to the airbase, the bus is silent. The driver plays a radio station with just static. You watch trees blur past, trying to freeze this version of yourself for a moment longer. The one who still hasn't seen war, who still smells like soap and not gunpowder, who still has all his parts in the right place. Because once that plane takes off, you're someone else, and there's no way to turn back. The airfield is buzzing before dawn, lit in that bluish pre-sunlight haze that makes everything feel like a memory before it even happens. Your duffel is slung over one shoulder. Your M16 is strapped tight. And your stomach, a mess of nerves and instant coffee. The military plane you're about to board is no commercial liner. It's a C-141 Starlifter, a flying warehouse with webbed seats and no frills. It smells like oil, sweat, and the ghosts of too many boots before yours. You climb the ramp and take your place along the metal wall. Everyone faces inward, knees knocking, helmets resting in laps. No one says much. The engines roar to life. and the vibration rattles your spine. Takeoff feels like being shoved by God. Sudden, brutal, and final. The mainland slips away beneath the clouds. That's the last time you'll see home for a while. Maybe ever. The flight is long. Like, real long. You nap in fits, talk in low voices, pass around a deck of cards that's missing the 7 of hearts. Someone starts humming. You chew a piece of gum until it tastes like nothing. Then keep chewing anyway, just to stay busy. After a pit stop at Guam, or maybe the Philippines, you're 2 days to keep track. You're told the next leg is into Tan Son Nhat Air Base, just outside Saigon. That name has been buzzing in your ears for weeks now. Saigon, the capital of South Vietnam, the city that never really sleeps, because there's always something blowing up nearby. As you descend into Vietnam, you notice something eerie. The jungle looks endless. An ocean of green. No edges. No fences. Just layers upon layers of trees and vines. Like a living thing that's swallowing the country whole. You try not to imagine what's waiting in there. Landing is rough. Jarring enough to jolt everyone back into full consciousness. The doors open, and the heat hits you like a slap. It's not just hot. It's wet. Your skin goes slick in seconds. The air is heavy, thick with jet fuel, mildew, and something faintly metallic. Welcome to Vietnam. You're herded off the plane and straight onto trucks, open-backed, olive-drab machines with wooden benches. A young corporal hops on and shouts, "Keep your heads down, just in case." You glance around. Just in case of what? Exactly? He doesn't explain. As the convoy bumps its way through Saigon, your eyes drink in everything. Shops with French signs half covered in vines. Barefoot kids chasing each other through alleyways. Women balancing baskets on their shoulders. Eyes tracking your truck with unreadable expressions. There are palm trees and barbed wire. Monks and Marines. All coexisting in a city where nobody looks relaxed. And then there are the smells. Oh, the smells. Street food. Fish sauce. Garlic. Sizzling meat on sticks. Mingle with diesel fumes. Rotting garbage. And something chemical that you'd rather not identify. You pass a carcass lying half covered in a ditch. Not human, hopefully. But no one looks twice. You arrive at the replacement depot, nicknamed the Repo Depot, which sounds cute until you realize it's where they assign you to your new unit. You and the other wide-eyed newbies are given temporary quarters, long wooden barracks with mosquito netting over bunk beds and fans that make more noise than wind. The orientation is brisk. You're handed a packet that includes a map of the region, a rundown of enemy tactics, spoiler, ambushes, traps, and disappearing acts, and a helpful list of Vietnamese phrases. You try to practice Xin Chao, hello, under your breath, but it comes out sounding like you sneezed. That night, you lie on your bunk and listen. Outside, there's shouting, a dog barking, distant gunfire, maybe. Someone in your room is crying quietly. You don't ask who. The next morning, the orders come. You're going north into what they call I Corps, the uppermost military region bordering the DMZ. It's reportedly the most dangerous zone, where the jungle is densest, the Viet Cong are boldest, and the terrain eats helicopters for breakfast. You've been assigned to the 1st Battalion, 9th Marines. The Walking Dead, they're called. Charming. Historians still argue whether the nickname was meant to intimidate the enemy or just reflect the grim reality of their casualty rates. Either way, the patch looks cool. You try not to think about what it means. You're issued a flak jacket that fits like a sandbag and a helmet already scuffed from previous owners. Some of the guys scratch prayers or girl names into theirs. You're tempted to write "send help," but settle for a small doodle of a stick figure flipping a table. The next few days blur by. You're flown in a Huey, loud, vibrating, open-doored, and exhilarating. Below you, rice paddies glint in the sunlight like shards of broken glass. Farmers look up, unbothered. Kids wave. Your stomach knots again. You land at a fire support base, a rough circle of sandbags, mud, artillery, and very tired-looking men. You greeted with nods and one sarcastic fresh meat. A sergeant with a gravel voice tells you where to dump your gear and which cot won't collapse under you. You ask how often this place gets it. He just grins and says, We've got a pool going. Want to place a bet? By the end of the week, you've stopped checking the calendar. It doesn't matter what day it is anymore, only whether you're moving, resting, or bracing for contact. And then, one morning, the word comes. Patrol. Your first one. You clean your weapon like your life depends on it. Because now, it really might. You're up before the sun, strapping gear to your body in silence. The air is thick and still, like it's holding its breath. Somewhere in the dark, a bird lets out a scream that sounds far too human. It's probably just a heron. Probably. Today's mission is a routine patrol. You'll come to learn that routine here doesn't mean safe. It just means someone wrote it down on paper first. Your squad gathers in a tight circle, rifles slung, helmets low. The lieutenant squats with a map spread across a wooden ammo crate. He points at squiggles you assume are trails and rivers. Sweep this grid, he says. Avoid the high ground. Might be booby-trapped. Engage only if engaged. You nod like you understand, though high ground and booby traps now seem more personal than geographic. Tank nudges you. Don't trip over anything suspicious, he mutters. Like dirt. And then you're moving. The jungle is nothing like the training woods back home. It's denser, louder, alive. Every step comes with a squelch or a snap. Every vine looks like it wants to grab your boot and pull. There's a constant chorus of insects, and the air smells like moldy socks and sweet rot. You grip your rifle tight, one eye on the path, one ear to the trees. The guy in front of you, Private Leeds, brand new from Arkansas, stumbles over a root, catches himself, and mutters something about snake pits. You hope he's joking. Hours pass. Sweat trickles down your spine in rivers. You haven't seen any enemy, but the tension is exhausting. Like waiting for a punch that never comes. Then you stop. The point man raises a fist. Everyone drops to a crouch. Silence. You hear it too, rustling up ahead. Then, something strange, a clinking sound. Faint, metallic. The sergeant motions you forward. You inch ahead, heart pounding. And then you see it. A wire, strung low between two saplings, just inches off the ground. Attached to a crude-looking device hidden beneath leaves. A trap. Booby trap trails were a hallmark of Viet Cong tactics. Grenades rigged with tripwires. Bamboo spike pits hidden beneath false floors. Even frags wired to soda cans to lure curious GIs. Historians still debate whether these tactics were desperation or brilliance. But either way, they worked. You freeze. The sergeant carefully disarms the trap. A bead of sweat hangs on your nose, refuses to drop. When it finally does, you flinch. The patrol continues, slower now. More eyes scanning the ground than the horizon. Leeds quietly thanks whoever's up there. You just exhale and keep walking. Midday hits hard. You stop in a clearing to hydrate and eat a ration. Yours is a green can labeled ham and lima beans. It smells like despair. Tank trades you for peanut butter, which is only slightly less miserable. As you eat, you hear a rustle nearby. Everyone tenses. Fingers go to triggers. But it's just a water buffalo, snorting through the brush like it owns the place. It glances at you and trots off, tail swishing. You laugh, a short, nervous bark. Then you see something else, a sandal print in the mud. Not one of yours. Fresh. The mood shifts instantly. The lieutenant tightens the formation. You fan out, every step slower than the last. And just like that, pop, pop, pop. Gunfire. From the left. It's not a full ambush, more like harassment fire, but it's your first taste of combat. You hit the ground hard. The mud is cool against your cheek. You can't see the enemy, just the muzzle flashes, brief, flickering ghosts in the trees. Your squad returns fire, bursts of noise and light erupting from the foliage. You squeeze your trigger, once, twice, and realize you're shaking. The M16 kicks more than you expected. A branch explodes next to your head. Then, silence. Just like that, they're gone. Viet Cong fighters were infamous for this hit-and-fade tactics. Guerrilla warfare. They'd shoot a few rounds, cause confusion, then melt into the jungle like smoke. Sometimes it was a distraction, sometimes a probe. You never really knew. The squad regroups. No injuries, just rattled nerves and high heart rates. The sergeant checks on everyone. That was your wake-up call, he says. Next time, they'll aim better. You march back to the base in silence. The adrenaline fades fast, leaving only exhaustion. Your boots feel 10 pounds heavier. The heat clings to your skin like a wet rag. At the base, you drop your gear, collapse onto a crate, and stare at nothing. Leeds lights a cigarette with shaking hands. So that's what it's like, he says. You nod. Yeah. Frank walks by, munching dry crackers, and mutters, that was just the teaser trailer. That night, under the mosquito net, you can't sleep. Not because of fear. Not exactly. It's more like your brain refuses to turn off. Keeps playing the gunfire over and over. Your finger twitches. Your ears ring. In the distance, a flare lights up the horizon. For a second, the jungle looks like it's on fire. Then darkness again. You wake up with the taste of iron in your mouth. Not blood, just the stale, dusty tang of the air. Outside the tent, it's already blistering. The sun hasn't even cleared the treetops yet, but the jungle doesn't wait for permission to start baking you alive. Today, you're digging. Officially, it's called fortification maintenance, but everyone just calls it what it is. Digging holes, moving sandbags, reinforcing positions, and sweating through your soul. Foxholes don't maintain themselves, and in Vietnam, the ground changes fast. Rain, roots, and enemy sappers make sure of that. You've got a shovel, a trenching tool that folds like a clunky puzzle, and a mission, deep in your assigned hole by 18 inches before noon. Tank jokes that this is the Army's idea of spa therapy, a free exfoliating mud mask, courtesy of Uncle Sam. You dig until your back aches and your hands blister. The soil here isn't just dirt. It's half roots, half rocks, and fully unforgiving. Every scoop is an argument with the earth. You sweat through your shirt in minutes. Ants crawl up your legs like you're a jungle-themed buffet. As you work, you hear others talking. Stories from home. Rumors about a guy who tried to fake a snake bite to get medevaced out. No one knows if it worked. Historians still argue. One guy mutters between heaves if digging trenches ever really helps in jungle warfare. And yet, here you are, because when mortars come, you'd rather be 6 feet down than 6 feet tall. At one point, your shovel hits something solid. Everyone freezes. Tank peers over the edge of the hole. Please don't be a bomb, he whispers, half to himself. You carefully clear the area, revealing a rusted chunk of metal. A corroded mess that used to be part of a bicycle, maybe. Or mine. Or an old French canister from their war, long before yours. Vietnam is full of leftovers. The first Indochina war left its fingerprints all over the landscape. Craters, burnt-out bunkers, rusting helmets buried in the soil. You're walking through layers of history, most of it tragic. As you dig, you start to feel something shift. Not in the ground, but in you. Yesterday's firefight, today's mud, none of it feels like the world you knew. Your hands are dirty, your face streaked. But what's strange is how normal it's starting to feel. You take a break in the shade of a collapsed wall. You're not even sure what it used to be. Part of a French outpost. A farmhouse. It doesn't matter now. Leeds offers you a sip from his canteen. It tastes like warm pennies. You say thanks anyway. In the distance, someone's blasting music from a small transistor radio. Tinny, warbly, distorted by the jungle's humidity. It's the Temptations, maybe, or Otis Redding. It doesn't matter. It reminds you of home for exactly 4 seconds before the buzz of cicadas swallows it up. Later, you're assigned to perimeter watch. That means sitting in a dugout hole, rifle ready, eyes scanning the horizon while the rest of the camp eats powdered eggs or argues over which MOE is least inedible. You stare at trees that never stop moving. Every breeze feels like an incoming ghost. And you wait. Watch duty in Vietnam is where time goes to die. Minutes stretch. Your senses heighten. A leaf falls and your heart jumps. A lizard skitters across a rock and your finger twitches on the trigger. You try to remember a joke to distract yourself, but your brain is too tired to be funny. At one point, you hear a pop in the distance. Not close, but not far enough to ignore. Your heart does that thing again. tries to decide between sprinting and seizing. The sergeant steps up behind you. Mortar practice, probably. Could be ours. Could be Charlie's. Charlie being the nickname for the Viet Song, short for Victor Charlie, the phonetic alphabet for VC. It's weird how fast the slang becomes second nature. You haven't been here long, but already it feels like you speak two versions of English, the kind from back home and the jungle kind. He leaves. You stay. You watch a pair of birds fight in the sky. You smell your own sweat baking into your uniform. You feel the trigger under your finger and wonder, would you even pull it fast enough if something came? After sunset, the bass dims. The jungle turns black and the sounds shift. Day bugs clock out. Night bugs clock in. You're told to stay low. No lights. No sudden movement. The perimeter becomes the edge of the universe. You off shift at midnight. You shuffle back to your tent, strip off your damp uniform, and collapse onto your cot. The mattress is thin, but you barely feel it. Just before sleep claims you, you hear someone whisper, "Did you hear about Key Song?" You pretend to be asleep. Key Song, the name rings loud. You've heard whispers. Marines under siege for weeks. Artillery so constant it shook teeth loose. Some say it was worse than hell. Others say hell at least had decent chow. Historians still debate if Key Song was a strategic distraction or a pivotal battle. What you know for sure is that a lot of guys died there, and the rest came back different. You pull the thin blanket over your chest. The air is still damp and hot, but it feels colder now. Like something is watching. Like the jungle never really sleeps. Outside, a flare arcs through the sky. For a moment, everything is daylight again. Green, sharp, exposed. Then it fades, and the darkness returns. You wake up to shouting. It's not panicked, just loud. Orders flying, boots stomping, and that high-pitched whine of metal dragging against metal. It's 0430 and the world is already buzzing. You blink blearily at the tent ceiling and wish, not for the first time, that you could trade your rifle for a snooze button. But today is different. You're not just on base duty. You're heading out on a helicopter insertion. You're first. You pull on your gear, double-check your ammo pouches, and fall in with the others. There's something strange in the air. Excitement, maybe. Or nerves masquerading as it. Everyone moves a little faster, laughs a little harder. Tank hums the theme to Ride of the Valkyries under his breath, grinning. You're not sure if it's a joke or if he's actually trying to psych himself up. You file out to the landing zone just as the sun peaks over the horizon. The choppers are already thudding in, a sound you feel in your ribcage before your ears can make sense of it. one Hueys, sleek and mean-looking, like dragonflies with machine guns. The rotors kick up dust and grass. You duck your head, though the veterans barely flinch. A crew chief waves you on with a casual flick of the hand, like he's seen this 1,000 times and doesn't have the energy to care anymore. You jump in, cram yourself between leads and a guy named Marco who smells faintly of onions and fear. The door gunner gives you a thumbs up, one hand on the .60 cal, and then the Huey lifts, and the world drops. You're flying. It's loud, ridiculously loud. The engine screams, the blades chop the sky, and the wind tries to rip the helmet off your head. Below, the jungle stretches out like a carpet, green, endless, deceptive. From up here, it looks almost peaceful. You pass over rice paddies and hills, tiny villages that blink past in seconds. Occasionally you spot the scars of war, cratered earth, charred remains of huts, scars from napalm or artillery. Historians still argue whether air mobility made the war more efficient or just more chaotic. But right now, you're too busy gripping your rifle to debate doctrine. Suddenly, the Huey banks hard left. The door gunner opens fire. Just a quick burst, down into the trees. You didn't even see anything. No one says a word. You just keep flying. 10 minutes later, the pilot shouts over the radio, "Drop zone in sight." You brace yourself, stomach tightening. The helicopter descends fast, like it's falling instead of flying. Dirt and leaves whip around the cabin. Then the skids touch down. The crew chief yells, "Go, go, Geo," and you on the ground. Boots hit mud. You sprint clear of the road to wash and fan out. The jungle here is denser, the air even wetter. You feel like you've been dropped into a fish tank lined with foliage. This area isn't enemy held, at least not openly, but there have been sightings, rumors. Your squad's mission is reckon, maybe a sweep. You won't know until the lieutenant gets orders over the radio. For now, you settle in and pull security. You crouch in the brush and try to become a rock. A very sweaty, anxious rock. Leeds mutters something about those giant centipedes he saw in a briefing. You immediately regret making eye contact with the ground. The squad advances slowly. Marco checks trees for wires. Frank marks the trail with chalk symbols, tiny arrows on bark. They'll fade fast in the humidity, but they are better than nothing. Half an hour in, you find something strange. A small clearing, burned around the edges. In the center, a pile of what looks like paper and broken tools. Leeds pokes at it with his bayonet. Old supply dump, you ask. Could be a decoy, Frank says. Or bait. You feel the hair rise on your neck. Guerrilla tactics often relied on confusion and false signals. The Viet Cong were known to plant abandoned gear to lure patrols into traps. Historians still debate how much of their strategy was improvised versus meticulously planned, but you're starting to suspect the answer is both. You mark the spot and move on. Later, you cross a footbridge made from 3 skinny logs lashed together. Below, the water is dark and slow. You grip the rope tightly, trying not to think of what might be in there. Someone jokes about leeches the size of sausages. No one laughs. Eventually, the radio crackles. Mission scrubbed. You're pulling out early. Something about a new intel report. Or maybe someone finally saw one of those phantom battalions the brass keeps whispering about. The Hueys return in a roar. You pile back in, boots coated in mud, heads on a swivel. As you lift off, you see movement on the tree line. Maybe just birds. Maybe not. The gunner fires another burst, just in case. Back at base, you debrief, hydrate, and collapse. Your ears ring from the flight. Your knees ache from crouching, and your mind is swimming with everything and nothing. That night, you find yourself staring at the ceiling again. The chopper ride replays in your head. The door gunners, the blur of trees. For a moment, you're convinced your cot is vibrating. Phantom rotor wash in your bones. Tank passes you a piece of candy from a care package. It's butterscotch. You suck on it like it's gold. Next time, he says, you can ride with the door open. Hard pass. You both chuckle. Then the power cuts out for a few seconds, just long enough for the jungle to press back in. The silence is thick and complete. No hum, no light. Just breath. Yours. And the night. The first time you go on night patrol, it's like walking into someone else's nightmare. You're told to keep your gear light. That's funny, because light in Vietnam still means 30 pounds of metal, webbing, and sweat pressed against your back like a grumpy toddler who hates you. You carry your M16, 2 canteens, a bandolier of ammo, your helmet, a flashlight you're not allowed to turn on, and something called hope, which weighs exactly nothing but disappears fast. You move out in single file, staggered intervals, the jungle swallowing you instantly. No moon tonight, just clouds and a few reluctant stars. Even if you wanted to see the guy in front of you, you couldn't. You follow sounds, not shapes. Boots crunching soft mud, a cough that's quickly stifled, the occasional whisper through gritted teeth. Your senses go into overdrive. Every leaf looks like a face. Every branch is a finger. Your mind starts making threats out of shadows. Somewhere in the dark, something screeches. A bird? A monkey? Tank mutters. Whatever that was, I don't want to shoot it. I want to apologize to it. You'd laugh, but your tongue's too dry. You press it to the roof of your mouth, hoping to feel something normal. You come across an old trail, one of the many spiderwebbing through the region. Might have been used by farmers, or by the Viet Cong, or both. Historians still argue how much the rural population supported the communists versus just trying to survive, and tonight, you understand that argument on a soul-deep level. You pause to listen. The jungle is never truly silent, but it knows when you're nervous. Crickets hush, leaves settle, the wind tiptoes away. You crouch, your knees screaming, and hold your breath so long you start to feel your pulse in your teeth. Nothing. You move again. A mile in, you stop for reckon. You and Leeds go ahead to scout a small rise. You crawl on your stomach, pushing your rifle ahead of you, feeling the wet soil suck at your chest like it wants to keep you. At the top, you lie flat and scan. There's a village beyond the trees, dark, quiet, unlit. That doesn't mean it's abandoned. Could be a VC stronghold. Could be innocent civilians trying to sleep. Or it could be both. That's the worst part. Everyone looks the same in the dark. No signs of movement. Just huts, palm roofs, and the faint smell of cooking smoke that still lingers from dinner fires. You mark the position and crawl back. You whisper the intel to the sergeant, who nods, scratches something on his map, and signals a pullback. The point of tonight's patrol wasn't engagement, just presence. A reminder that the Americans are always nearby, watching, listening. You move back down the trail, quieter than before. Even tank shuts up. Halfway back, you hear noise behind you. Quick, sharp, out of place. You freeze. Everyone drops to a crouch. The noise comes again. Could be a monkey. Could be a sniper. Your heart punches your ribs like it's trying to escape. You grip your rifle tighter, finger near the trigger but not on it. You wait. You don't blink. Your legs start to cramp. Then a shape emerges, low, moving fast. Your pulse spikes. The point man raises his weapon. But it's just a dog. A mutt. Scrappy. Ribs showing. Tail wagging like it doesn't know the world's at war. It trots past your patrol like you're just trees. Leeds lets out a breath that could have inflated a tent. Later, back at camp, someone swears that dog is a ghost. Shows up, disappears. Maybe it's a VC spy. Or maybe, Tank says, he just thinks our rations smell like trash. You smile, barely, but you don't forget the way that dog looked at you, like it recognized something. In your tent, you peel off your socks. They are soaked. You hang them near the entrance, where they'll stay damp for the rest of eternity. You rub your feet, try to ignore the trench rut starting between your toes, and lie back. No gunfire tonight. No incoming mortars. Just the slow chirp of crickets reawakening now that the danger has passed, or maybe just moved. You close your eyes, and for a moment, you feel weightless, floating in blackness. That's when the dream hits. You're back on the trail, alone. No patrol, no dog, just trees closing in on all sides, vines wrapping around your ankles, branches whispering your name. You try to call for help, but your mouth is full of mud. You raise your rifle, but it melts in your hands. You wake up with a jolt, heart racing, shirt soaked. Frank is snoring. Tank is muttering about bacon in his sleep. The tent is quiet. You lie there, staring at the roof, wondering if the dream means anything, or if it's just your brain's way of saying, maybe this job is a bit much. Historians still argue whether night patrols were effective or just psychological torture. You don't know the answer. All you know is, you've never felt so awake while being so desperately tired. As you drift off again, you think about that dog. If he shows up tomorrow, you're saving him half a cracker. Maybe that's how people stay sane out here, holding on to something small and harmless, even if it has fleas. By now, you've gotten used to some things. How your socks are never dry, how breakfast always tastes like powdered boredom, and how Tank can somehow sleep through artillery drills. But one thing you can't get used to is how quickly everything can change. 1 minute, you're refilling sandbags. The next, the world explodes. It starts with a sound, distant, like thunder, but wrong. Then the siren wails. You freeze mid-shovel, heart hammering, mouth dry. Someone yells incoming, and you're already running. The first mortar lands near the perimeter fence. The second hits closer, showering the compound with dirt and debris. You dive into the nearest trench and cover your head, breath coming in short bursts. The air smells like burning rubber and metal. This isn't a test. This is real. You peek out just long enough to see black smoke rising from a fuel drum near the motor pool. The flames flicker in the early morning haze. Shouts echo across the base. Someone calling for a medic, another barking orders, a third just screaming. You grip your rifle tight. It won't help against mortars, but it feels better than holding nothing. Tank slides into the trench next to you. grinning like it's all a game. Guess breakfast's postponed. You want to say something, anything, but your throat's stuck. The barrage continues. 5 rounds, then 10, then silence. The worst kind of silence. Because now you wait for the second wave. Maybe sappers trying to breach the wire. Maybe a ground assault. Maybe nothing at all. Historians still argue whether these shellings were just harassment tactics or part of some larger psychological campaign. Either way, your nerves don't care. You and the squad take up positions along the perimeter. You crouch behind a sandbag wall, peering through a slit with your rifle ready. The jungle looks the same as always. Lush, quiet, hiding everything. Then you see movement. A flicker between 2 trees. You raise your rifle but hold your fire. Could be a monkey. Could be a scout. Leeds mutters, "I swear I saw a guy out there." Yeah? What was he wearing? Hope and leaves. Tank snorts, but no one laughs. The tension lasts for hours. Or maybe minutes. Time's weird now. Eventually, the all clear comes over the radio. No ground attack. Just a mortar team trying to stir the pot. They're long gone by now. Disappeared into the jungle like ghosts. You exhale for the first time in what feels like days. Afterward, cleanup begins. 2 guys from another squad were wounded. One seriously. Shrapnel in the leg. He's lucky, the medic says. Could have hit his femoral artery. You try not to look at the blood. Instead, you help with repairs. Filling more sandbags. Replacing busted planks. Hammering warped nails. You become part of the fix-it machine, moving on autopilot. That night, you sit with the others in a circle near the hooch. Tank produces a harmonica and plays something that sounds suspiciously like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Someone throws a pebble at him. Frank passes around a pack of cigarettes someone's uncle mailed from back home. You don't smoke, but tonight, you make an exception. The paper crackles, the tobacco burns, and for a few minutes, you almost feel normal. Leeds leans back and says, "What would you be doing if you weren't here?" Marco says, "Probably working at my dad's auto shop." He thinks carburetors are a form of religion. Frank grunts, "I'd still be flunking algebra." They turn to you. You shrug, probably college, or working in a movie theater, something with popcorn. They nod like that makes perfect sense. There's a pause. Then Tank says, "You think anyone actually believes what we're doing here is working?" No one answers right away. Historians still argue whether the American strategy in Vietnam ever had a clear path to success. Metrics like body counts replaced actual progress. You kill 10 guys today, and tomorrow, 20 more take their place. And even if you win a battle, who's to say you won the war? You flick ash into the dirt and say, "I think we're just trying to keep each other alive." Everyone nods. Frank says, "That's enough for me." You sleep uneasily. The echo of the mortars plays back in your dreams, each one louder than the last. You wake up 3 times, heart pounding, convinced it's starting again. It isn't. Just your brain refusing to let it go. The next morning, a chaplain visits the base. He gives a short talk under a canvas awning, something about endurance and the Lord's plan. You zone out after the second verse. Not because you're disrespectful, but because it's hard to think about heaven when your foxhole's full of water and your boots have started growing moss. Still, you stay until the end. He hands out small pocket Bibles and hard candy. You take both. One for reading, one for chewing. Later, you see Leeds sitting alone, staring into the jungle. You sit next to him. "You okay?" He nods, doesn't look at you. Just thinking. That mortar hit real close. Makes you wonder how much longer your luck holds. You both sit in silence, watching trees sway in the breeze that never reaches your skin. Eventually, he says, "We should name our trench." "Why?" "So if we get hit, they'll know where to put the plaque." You smirk. "How about Camp Crappy?" Leeds grins. "Perfect." You carve it into the sandbag wall with your bayonet tip. "Welcome to Camp Crappy. Population, too many." The mail drop is late again, which means morale is dipping dangerously low. Even Frank, who usually claims not to care about sentimental nonsense, keeps glancing toward the airstrip like it owes him money. When the mail finally arrives, it's chaos. Soldiers crowd around the supply tent, yelling names, shoving, craning their necks for a glimpse of the clerk's clipboard. You wake with your usual combination of hope and carefully measured pessimism. Tank gets a bundle of letters from his sister. Leeds receives a single envelope with flowery handwriting that smells faintly like lilac. You get nothing. Again, you try not to take it personally. Maybe your parents forgot what week it is. Maybe your girlfriend's busy. Maybe the postal service just lost a letter in a monsoon or used it as a coaster in Saigon. Still, it stings. Back in your hooch, Tank offers you one of his sister's letters to read. She writes about TV shows I've never seen. It's like getting mail from Mars. You skim it. There's a mention of the Brady Bunch, a neighbor's new dog named Puddles, and a debate over whether bell-bottoms are still in. You smile, but it's the kind of smile you wear when your insides feel like wet laundry. That night, a rumor circulates that one of the guys in Charlie Company got a Dear John letter. Apparently, his fiancée dumped him via haiku. You're not sure that's true, but it gets enough laughs to stick around. One of the weirder things about the war is how time keeps fracturing. Some days last years, others vanish in a blink. Mail Day is supposed to anchor you, remind you there's still a world out there with pizza and vinyl records and people who don't carry rifles. But sometimes, it does the opposite. It reminds you how far away you really are. So instead of sulking, you write a letter. Nothing dramatic, just a few lines about how hot it is, how Tank thinks the mosquitoes are organized, and how Leeds tried to make spaghetti with Spam and powdered tomato mix. You tuck in a dumb drawing of your squad roasting marshmallows over a claymore. You sign it, still breathing. Still weird. Love you. Then you realize you don't know what stamp to use, or whether it even needs one. The guys in your unit all have their own letter rituals. Frank writes in cursive, so neat it looks printed. Marco doodles in the margins. Jets, skulls, pin-up girls. Leeds uses a fountain pen, which feels outrageously fancy for a place where the toilet is just a pit with a lid. Some of the older guys don't write at all. They say if you don't expect anything, you won't be disappointed. You're not ready to be that kind of soldier yet. At dinner, someone reads a letter aloud, part of it anyway. It's from a cousin in Oregon, asking if you've blown up any Charlie yet and whether the jungle looks like Tarzan movies. Leeds raises an eyebrow. Tell your cousin Tarzan never had foot rot. Someone else got a photo. 2 kids in Halloween costumes. Cowboys, complete with hats and plastic guns. You pass it around. When it reaches you, you linger on it just a second longer than necessary. Historians still argue how much mail boosted morale in Vietnam compared to other wars. Some say it was the lifeline that kept soldiers sane. Others claim it created a psychic split. 1 foot in the jungle, 1 in the world you can't touch. You write another letter the next day. This time, it's to yourself. You don't even realize you're doing it until you've filled half a page. It's just a list of things you miss. Cold cereal, the sound of a washing machine, carpeted floors, your mom's off-key humming, the smell of books. You sign it. Don't forget who you are. Then you fold it and tuck it into your pack. Maybe someday, when you're back home and this all feels like a bad movie you watched too many times, you'll read it and remember what you fought to keep inside. A few days later, a letter finally arrives for you. It's crumpled, water-stained, and smells faintly like old envelopes. But it's from your dad. He writes about your mom's garden, your cousin's wedding, and how the neighborhood has a new streetlight that makes everything look blue at night. He doesn't talk about the war. Not really. Just says, keep your head down and come home in one piece. At the bottom, there's a line he must have added as an afterthought. We're proud of you, even if we don't understand all of this. You read that part 3 times. Tank pats your shoulder. See, not everyone forgot you exist. You nod, trying to blink away the dust that's somehow only in your eyes. Before lights out, you take a pen and write 3 more letters. You don't even think about what to say. You just let it pour. A joke here, a sketch there, a story about a guy who tried to shave using mosquito repellent by mistake. You don't know if the letters will make it, but they help. And maybe that's the real trick of it. Not just receiving letters, but sending them. Proving to yourself that you're still tethered to something bigger than MREs and mortar drills. That somewhere out there, under normal stars and above non-leaky roofs, Someone might be reading your words and thinking, is still him. Still you. Still holding on. It's your turn on night watch again. Third shift. The worst one. Not early enough to get it over with. Not late enough to feel like morning. Just that dead stretch of night when your body wants nothing more than to shut down, and your mind starts making shadows out of nothing. You strap on your gear in silence, careful not to wake the others. Tank mumbles something unintelligible in his sleep, probably arguing with a dream mosquito. You smile, then step out into the inky darkness. The air is thick, pressing against your skin like a damp blanket. You settle into your post at the southern perimeter. It's quiet, almost too quiet. A frog chirps somewhere, a sound like two rubber bands slapping together. Leaves rustle occasionally, but there's no breeze. Just bugs, always bugs, buzzing with relentless devotion. Your rifle rests across your lap. You tap your fingers on the stock to stay awake. Time creeps. 5 minutes feel like 50. Your eyelids flutter once, twice. You slap your cheek lightly. Not tonight. The jungle out there isn't just a backdrop anymore. It's alive, watching. And you've heard the stories about patrols vanishing without a trace. About snipers who could wait in the same tree for 2 days without moving. About booby traps that looked like ordinary branches until they took off someone's leg. You scan the tree line again. Nothing. Still, you can't shake the feeling that something's there. They trained you for this. Kind of. But training didn't include the hallucination part. How sleep deprivation can make a stump look like a crouching figure, or how two glowing eyes in the dark might just be a possum, or not. You whisper to yourself just to hear another voice. Nothing out there but trees and your imagination. Then you hear it. A click. Very faint. Not mechanical. More like a twig under careful weight. You freeze. Hold your breath. Listen. A long pause. Then another soft crunch. You click the safety off your rifle and raise it slowly. Eyes wide. Scanning. Then, movement. Just a ripple in the leaves. Could be wind. Could be Charlie. You whisper into your radio. Possible movement. South sector. Can't confirm. Over. A second later. Static crackles. Then Frank's groggy voice. Copy that. You want backup. You hesitate. Pride says no. Survival says yes. Affirmative. Quiet approach. Over. Minutes later. Frank crouches beside you, rifle raised. You point toward the trees. Another sound, this time louder. A flutter. A thump. Then silence again. You both watch. Rifles aimed. Hearts drumming like war drums. Then the culprit emerges. A wild boar. Fat. Ugly. Snorting like it owns the place. It stays at you for a second, as if offended, then trots off into the undergrowth. Frank lowers his weapon, sighs. You owe me a coffee. You both laugh quietly, relief pouring over you like a cold shower. But you're still shaken, because even though it was just a pig, it could have been so much worse. And next time, it might be. Historians still argue whether the psychological toll of Vietnam was primarily due to combat or the environment itself. The endless tension, the silence between gunfire, the way every leaf could be a landmine. You don't need a PhD to know it's a mix of everything. The rest of your shift passes without incident. When the sky finally begins to lighten into a soft blue-gray, you feel like you've survived a battle, even if you never fired a shot. Back in the hooch, you collapse onto your cot, boots and all. You're too tired to care. You fall asleep almost instantly, even with Tank singing in his sleep again. Something about cheese. When you wake, it's already late morning. The base is buzzing. Leeds is arguing with Marco about whether Rambo could actually survive in a real jungle. Frank is using his bayonet to open a tin of peaches with surgical precision. You take a moment to enjoy this strange bubble of normal. You grab a meal, rice, mystery meat, more powdered drink, and eat in silence, staring at nothing. Leeds eventually joins you. You good? You nod. Just tired. He leans back. They say in some parts of this country, the jungle swallows whole villages. Like, one day they're there, next day, gone. Grows right over everything. That's comforting. Right. He grins. The rest of the day drifts. You clean your weapon. You practice radio call-ins. You help Marco fix a jammed M60. You dig another trench segment, because there's always more dirt and never enough walls. And all the while, you think about that moment in the dark. About how close you are to the edge. Always. You think about the ball. About the twigs snapping. About how your heart didn't stop racing until well after sunrise. At dusk, you catch a glimpse of something beautiful, just for a second. The clouds break, and for the first time in weeks, you see stars. Real stars. Hundreds of them, sharp and bright and utterly unreachable. Tank stands next to you, staring up. Makes you feel small. Oh. You nod. Then he adds, also makes me wonder how many of those are actually satellites. You laugh, and it's the kind that sticks around in your chest. Later that night, you're off duty. No watch tonight. You curl into your cot, listening to the familiar sounds. Someone coughing, someone snoring, the occasional distant boom that doesn't even register anymore. You pull your poncho liner up to your chin and let your eyes close. Sleep comes quickly, but not peacefully. In your dreams, you're back on night watch. But this time, the jungle isn't still. This time, something's coming. And you wake up, heart pounding, fingers gripping your blanket like it's a rifle. Morning comes anyway, because it always does. The rain doesn't fall, it assaults. You wake to the sound of it drumming on the roof like 1,000 angry fists. Everything is wet. Your cot is damp. Your boots squish. Even your toothbrush feels soggy. It's the kind of tropical downpour that turns the ground to soup and morale to mush. Outside, the camp is chaos. Sandbags are floating. The latrine is a small lake. A small, unholy lake. Frank tries to light a cigarette under his helmet, fails, and mutters something about moving to Arizona. Leeds is barefoot, dumping water from his boots like he's emptying soup cans. Marco points to a lizard that seems to be swimming upstream through the mud. New platoon mascot, he declares. Name's Sergeant Slippery. You laugh, but your socks are already soaked through. The rain turns the jungle into a green, shifting blur. Patrols become slower, more dangerous. The trails vanish under the muck. The roots get slick, the leeches more aggressive. You slap one off your calf and it laughs at you. Okay, maybe not out loud, but spiritually. The worst part, the rain dampens sound, so every step you take feels louder. Every creak of your gear feels like a signal flare. Charlie could be 10 feet away, and you'd never hear him over the drumming sky. Historians still argue whether the monsoon season helped or hindered the Viet zone. On the one hand, it gave cover for movement. On the other, it drowned out radios, ruined ammo, and made everything about 3 times harder. But out here, it's just one more reminder that nature is not your friend. Your squad gets assigned to a wrecking mission, 10 clicks through rice paddies and jungle trails, all in the middle of this aquatic nonsense. The captain says it'll be low contact. He also said last week's march was moderately muddy, and you almost lost a boot in your sense of humor in that swamp. You move single file, trying to keep your rifle dry with a piece of poncho. The rain makes your helmet feel heavier, like it's filling up from the inside. Water pools at the bottom of your sleeves. Your fingers are pruny. The ground sucks at your feet with every step, like it's trying to eat you. Halfway through the patrol, you come across a flooded village. The huts are half submerged. Chickens perch on rooftops, looking offended. An old woman waves from her porch like this happens every Tuesday. A child splashes by with a stick and a tin can, smiling like it's the best day of his life. Perspective, you think. Always good to have some. Leeds whispers, why does he get to enjoy this? Because he doesn't have to carry 80 pounds of wet regret. You whisper back. Tank sneezes behind you, so loud it scares a nearby heron into flight. Everyone freezes, but nothing happens. You move on. Later, you stop to rest in a banana grove. The rain lessens, shifting from violent attack to persistent drizzle. You chew a soggy protein bar that tastes like chocolate-flavored cardboard and try to wring out your socks. No point. Your feet now qualify as amphibious. The radio crackles with an update. Possible enemy movement near hill up ahead. Leeds checks the map. You groan. The hill looks steep, slippery, and basically cursed. Up you go. The climb is slow and miserable. Mud slides out from under you. Tank falls twice. Marco uses a branch as a walking stick, which promptly snaps and smacks him in the face. Leeds quotes something philosophical about endurance. You tell him to save it for a drier apocalypse. At the top, visibility opens up. Through the gray curtain of rain, you see the valley below, lush, endless, surreal. You'd almost call it beautiful if you weren't cold, wet, and halfway to trench foot. You set up a temporary lookout. The rain finally eases enough for you to hear again. The jungle hums with that post-storm chorus. Birds, insects, maybe something bigger in the brush. You watch. You wait. Nothing happens. But your nerves are shot anyway. You've spent hours tensed, expecting ambush or sniper fire. Your fingers ache from gripping your weapon. Your neck muscles feel like piano wire. And then, the sun peeks through. Just a little. Golden rays split the clouds and hit the treetops like stage lights. Steam rises off the jungle. The whole valley seems to glow. You hear someone exhale behind you, long and low. Nobody says a word. Even Frank, who always has something sarcastic to offer, stays quiet. The moment doesn't last. The radio buzzes. Pack up. Move out. Back down the hill you go. By the time you return to camp, you're soaked again. The sky has decided you've had too many nice things. Still, that glimpse of sunlight stays with you. Like a postcard from a better world that accidentally got sent here. That night, you hang your socks on a line in the hooch. It's pointless. They'll still be damp in the morning, like everything else. But it feels like trying. And that's something. You fall asleep to the sound of rain drumming on the roof again. And this time, it almost sounds like a lullaby. Almost. You never thought you'd say this, but you kind of miss the rain. Because now it's gone, and the heat is back, and it's personal. The humidity punches you in the face the moment you step outside. The jungle feels like someone wrapped you in a hot, wet towel and told you to go run a marathon with a backpack full of bricks. The mud is still there, of course, only now it's steaming like soup left on the stove too long. Leeds fans himself with a laminated map. Tank, glistening with sweat, mutters that his bones are melting. Frank's shirt is completely soaked through. He raises his arms and says, "Am I sweating or crying through my armpits?" You don't laugh. You're too busy trying not to pass out. There's no breeze, no clouds, no mercy. Your canteen is warm enough to brew tea. Your helmet strap chafes your neck, and your uniform feels like it shrank 2 sizes since breakfast. You haven't even done anything yet. Today's assignment, perimeter maintenance, which sounds fancy. What it really means is digging new trench sections, hauling sandbags, and shoveling enough dirt to bury your will to live. You get to work with Leeds and Marco. Tank and Frank are off repairing a broken comms relay. Lucky them. At least they're in the shade. Each shovel load is agony. The sun's directly overhead, and the ground is either still flooded or baked solid. No in between. You stop every few minutes to wipe your eyes. Not from emotion. Just sweat. Rivers of it. Marco tries to lighten the mood. You know, in ancient times, soldiers marched in armor under the sun for days. Yeah, you grunt, and most of them died from dehydration. Details, he shrugs. Historians still argue whether heat or combat killed more troops in Vietnam. Heat stroke, dehydration, jungle rot, and plain old exhaustion were constant enemies. It wasn't glamorous, but it was relentless. You pause to take a drink, but your canteen's empty. Leeds hands you his. Sip. Don't chug. You do. It helps. Barely. Then the wasps arrive. Jungle wasps. Black, aggressive, and seemingly fueled by spite. One of them lands on your sleeve. You freeze. Marco eyes it like it's a live grenade. Don't move, he whispers. The wasp crawls across your shoulder, inspects your collar, and eventually flies off, probably unimpressed. You exhale. Leeds wasn't so lucky. He's waving his arms like he's on fire, swatting at 3 of them buzzing around his face. One stings him on the A. He lets out a noise that sounds like someone stepping on a rubber chicken. "I'm too pretty for this war," he mutters, pressing a canteen cap to the swelling. Eventually, you finish your section. It looks like a trench in the same way a pizza box looks like a mattress. But it'll do. You slump against a tree, Panting, Frank and Tank return. Frank tosses you a warm bottle of orange powder drink mix and plops down next to you. "I fixed the relay," Tank says proudly. "Good," you wheeze. "Call God and tell him to turn the sun down." Back in camp, you try to cool off. You strip down to your skivvies and stand in front of a fan that smells faintly of diesel and regret. The breeze feels like heaven, even if it's hot air. It moves, and that's all that matters. Someone's playing Creedence Clearwater Revival on a battery-powered tape player. The music drifts through the hooch, mingling with the scent of foot powder and instant noodles. You hum along quietly. Dinner is more rice, more canned meat, and a mystery vegetable that might be pickled mango or possibly part of someone's boot. No one's sure. Afterward, a rare luxury, mail call. The letters arrive in a soggy bundle, but no one cares. You get two. One from your sister, filled with school gossip, and a drawing from your nephew that appears to be you fighting a dinosaur with a bazooka. Close enough. The second is from an old friend who didn't get drafted. He talks about his new car, college classes, and some girl he's seeing who doesn't even watch the news. You read it twice, then fold it carefully and slide it into your pack. Lead's got a package, cookies, or what used to be cookies, now just cookie dust. Still, the whole squad gets a taste, and it might as well be gold. You watch the sun go down from a hill outside camp. The sky goes pink, then orange, then a bruised purple. The heat finally breaks a little. Crickets start their chorus. For a second, it feels peaceful, until the mosquitoes show up. You slap one off your neck, then another off your arm. Frank appears behind you and whispers, "They can smell your dreams." You almost jump off the hill. Back in the hooch, the guys are arguing over whether a person could survive on nothing but peaches and Slim Jims. Tank insists yes. Marco says no, not unless you enjoy scurvy. You lay down on your cot, drained but slightly less miserable. You survive the heat. Barely. Sleep comes in stages. Your body shuts down before your mind does. You think about the letters, about home, about how people talk about Vietnam like it's just battles and bombs. But no one tells you about the sweat, the heat, the bugs, the weird moments of hilarity between the misery, and the fact that, even now, you're kind of getting used to it, which is worrying. There's a sound that rattles your bones before you even know what it is. It's a deep whomp that seems to vibrate the air around you, followed by the sharp chop of spinning blades. The kind of sound that says something big is coming, and fast. Helicopters. You jump up from your cot, boots half-laced, grabbing your gear before your brain fully wakes up. The rest of the squad is doing the same, a kind of synchronized chaos. No one has to yell. You all know what that sound means. An aimable up. Within minutes, you're standing on the edge of the LZ landing zone, squinting into the wind kicked up by the rotor wash. A pair of UH-1 Hueys descend like angry metal dragonflies, kicking up dirt, leaves, and that fine Vietnamese dust that somehow gets into your teeth. You hustle on board. You've done this before, but it never stops being nerve-wracking. The skids feel too narrow, the interior too open. You sit with your legs dangling out the side, the M16 cradled across your lap, and pretend you're not terrified. The crew chief gives a thumbs up. The chopper lifts. Just like that, you're airborne. Wind tears at your face. The view is stunning. Green jungle, winding rivers, patchwork rice paddies. You'd admire it if your stomach weren't doing somersaults. You clench your jaw and glance at Tank, who looks like he's halfway to barfing. Frank leans out, grinning like he's on a theme park ride. Marco yells over the rotor noise. "If I fall out, tell my mom I died dramatically." You smile, but it doesn't reach your eyes. The pilot banks left. Below, a small hamlet flashes by. You spot kids playing in a field, completely unfazed by the massive flying machine roaring overhead. One of them waves. Historians still argue whether these airmobile operations brought real tactical advantage or just more exposure to chaos. The strategy was speed. Get in, hit hard, get out. But the truth was, sometimes the speed just got you into a mess faster. The bird starts descending. Your heart rate spikes. You grip your rifle tighter. Every nerve is electric now. The ground rushes up to meet you. Trees blur past. The chopper slows, hovers. The crew chief weighs you out like he's kicking you off a bus. Boots hit the date. You're in. The LZ isn't hot. Thank God. No fire on descent. No snipers. Just a clearing with waist-high grass and the acrid stench of fuel. The noise fades as the choppers lift again, leaving you and your squad in a world that suddenly feels too quiet. The mission: secure a ridgeline suspected of harboring a VC supply cache. It's a hike, 2 clicks uphill through tangled brush and dense undergrowth. You form a wedge, tank up front, Marco and leads on flanks. You keep checking your 6. The silence doesn't feel like safety, it feels like a setup. Every leaf looks like it's watching you. Every rustle sounds like trouble. You've seen too many patrols go sideways not to expect it. Halfway up, tank freezes, fist in the air. Everyone drops to a crouch. You strain your ears. There it is, muffled voices. Close. Too close. You fan out, inching forward through vines and thorny undergrowth. You spot movement, a trio of figures near a rock outcropping. No uniforms, but weapons, yes. One of them's got an AK. You take a breath, slow and shallow. Then the shooting starts. It's sudden, sharp, loud. Your ears ring. You fire. Instinct guiding your hands more than thought. Marco shouts something, but it's lost in the crackle of gunfire and the high-pitched scream of adrenaline. It's over quickly. The enemy scatters. 2 vanish into the trees. 1 drops. You approach cautiously. The man isn't moving. Probably VC. Probably. Frank searches the area and finds a stash. Rice bags, maps, ammo. Confirmation. You radio it in. Command wants you to hold the ridge until extraction. So you dig in. The sun starts to dip. The heat fades, but the tension doesn't. You set up a perimeter, post watches, and eat in silence. No one talks about the guy you shot, or the fact that your hands are still shaking, or how your chest feels like it might crack open from everything you're holding in. You try to sleep sitting up, rifle across your lap, boots still on. Leeds takes first watch. Frank second. You're third. When it's your turn, the jungle is cloaked in thick, sticky dark. Every chirp and snap feels exaggerated. You imagine shapes between the trees. You count heartbeats. At some point, you start talking to yourself. Soft, rhythmic nonsense just to keep your nerve from chewing through your spine. A monkey screeches in the distance. You flinch so hard you nearly elbow Marco, who snores on your left. You survive the night. Just barely. At dawn, the birds begin their chaotic opera again. Your body aches in places you didn't know existed. The choppers return mid-morning. This time, it's an extraction under fire. Another squad a few clicks away is in contact, and command wants your team pulled back to support. The Hueys roar in. You sprint for the skid, leap aboard. This time, you don't even pretend to be cool about it. You're just grateful to get off that ridge in one piece. As the chopper lifts, you look down at the trees again. Same jungle, same green, but now it knows your name. You spend the next few days with a ringing in your ears and a weird hollow feeling in your chest, like you left something important back on that ridge. Nobody talks about it. Not directly. You and your squad just sort of float through your routines, cleaning weapons that are already clean, checking gear you already checked. Even Leeds is quieter than usual. Frank breaks the silence over dinner by dramatically narrating his spoonful of rice like it's a fine wine. Hints of aluminum, essence of chalk, and just a whisper of despair. Tank chokes on his water. Everyone laughs a little too hard, but the tension never really goes away. Then one afternoon, the captain calls you in. Just you. That's never good. Inside the makeshift command tent, it's musty and hot, smelling of maps and mildew. Is holding a clipboard and doesn't look up. You've been recommended for a Phoenix Intel assist. 1 week temporary assignment. You blink. Hey, what? Phoenix program, he says. Interrogation support. Translation. Village questioning. Reckon. You'll be working with ARVN and CIA types. You don't know what to say, so you just nod. He looks up. Finally. You'll be back with your squad before the end of the month. Probably. And just like that, you're not a grunt anymore, at least for a week. You're whatever this is. The next morning, a truck picks you up. No fanfare. You bounce down a red date road with two South Vietnamese officers and a man in civilian clothes who says nothing and never removes his sunglasses. You don't ask questions. You've heard rumors. The Phoenix program is one of those things people don't talk about too loud. It's counterinsurgency. It's intelligence gathering. It's, depending on who you ask, essential, brutal, or both. Historians still argue whether it prevented bloodshed or just moved it into the shadows. You dropped off at a compound outside a dusty village. Concrete walls, radio tower, two bored-looking guards playing cards. Inside, there's a single fan that turns slow enough to make you hate it. A translator named Kien introduces himself in fluent English. He's sharp, polite, and has a sad smile like he's seen too much already. Your job? Ask questions. Cross-check names on lists. Sit in on village interviews. Sometimes you're there for protection, other times just to be an intimidating presence. The first day, you watch Kien and the ARVN captain question a farmer who says he doesn't know any VC. You don't press. He's probably telling the truth. Or maybe not. You don't speak the language well enough to catch the tone beneath the words. That night, you sleep in a cot that smells like mothballs in war. Your dreams are static and shouts. The next day is stranger. You're taken to a hamlet where a suspected informant was captured. They're not sure if he's actually VC or just someone with enemies. He's thin, barefoot, twitchy. Kien asks questions. You sit nearby with your rifle across your knees, trying not to look threatening, but not looking too friendly either. Afterward, Kien tells you he's lying, but not about what they think. You nod like you understand. You don't. Later, you learn he was let go anyway. Or maybe he wasn't. Maybe they just told you that. The man with the sunglasses never speaks, but is always there, watching, taking notes. You're not sure who he works for, but he scares you more than anyone with a gun. One morning, a kid, maybe 12, leads you to a buried radio behind his uncle's house. Just like that, the village is flagged. The next day, two men vanish from it. Everyone pretends nothing happened. You eat lunch under a tarp and try not to think about it. You can't tell if you're helping or making things worse. The lines are blurry out here, so blurry. The food's better than what you ate with your squad. Real meat, vegetables, fresh bread. But it doesn't taste like anything. One afternoon, a young woman is brought in. She's accused of passing messages for the VC. You sit in the corner of the room as the captain questions her. She cries quietly, never raising her voice. Kien looks uncomfortable. So do you. When she leaves, you ask, do you think she was guilty? Kien shrugs. We're all guilty of something. That night, you write a letter home but rip it up before you finish. On the fifth day, you ride along with a small patrol that arrests a man whose name matches one on a U.S. intelligence list. He doesn't resist. He barely looks up. In his hut, you find a battered French novel and a rusted bicycle. No weapons. Nothing suspicious. Still, he's taken away. You ask what happens next. Nobody answers. You try not to think about it. By the seventh day, you're counting hours. The man in sunglasses nods at you as you leave the compound. You nod back. You still don't know his name. You don't want to. Back at your base, the guys act like you've just returned from vacation. Leeds makes a joke about you working for the CIA now. Frank tries to confiscate your cooler pillow. Marco demands stories. You tell them you drank better coffee and didn't get shot at. You don't tell them about the crying woman or the blank-eyed prisoner with the French book. There are things you've seen now that you can't really talk about. Because this war isn't just about bullets and ambushes. Sometimes it's about whispers. About what's not said. And those quiet moments. They echo the loudest. You're back with your squad, and everything feels familiar, but not the same. You lace up your boots like you always have, sling your rifle over your shoulder, not along with Tank's dumb jokes, but it's like slipping into clothes that shrank in the wash. Everything fits, but just barely. You're still you, but not quite. Nobody asks about what you did during the Phoenix assignment. Not really. Just a few half-jokes, some raised eyebrows, and then the silence fills in the rest. Everyone knows that kind of silence. It's the war's favorite language. After a few days, the jungle swallows you up again. You're sent to secure a stretch of Highway 13, the so-called Thunder Road. It runs through thick rubber plantations and open rice paddies. Ambush country, Charlie's backyard. You ride shotgun on a convoy of supply trucks, eyes scanning every culvert and tree line. Some way past like the lead truck hits a mine. Not a Hollywood-style explosion, no fireball, no slow-motion chaos. Just a sudden boom, a geyser of date, and the front of the vehicle crumples like a kicked tin can. You freeze. Then you move. Frank screaming for cover. Marco dives into a roadside ditch. Tanks already returning fire, though there's no clear target. The trees to your right cough up puffs of smoke. Incoming rounds snapping overhead like dry twigs breaking in the wind. You crawl under the rear axle of a stalled Jeep, heart pounding in your throat. The ambush is fast and fierce. Gunfire from both sides, your own men yelling in a dozen directions. You think about the guy in the front truck. You don't know his name. You never will. The firing tapers off after 10 eternal minutes. You regroup. 5 men are wounded. 2 aren't moving. A helicopter evac is called in. And while you wait, you help carry one of the injured soldiers, his leg barely attached, to a shaded patch of dirt. You press a bandage to the wound, not even sure if it'll help. His eyes flutter. Tell my wife, her name's Maggie. You don't know what to say, so you just nod and say, I will. He squeezes your arm, then passes out. The chopper arrives. Dust and debris whip around you as you help load the wounded. The crew chief yells something about incoming, and you duck instinctively even though there's no fire now. Just the paranoia that lingers like humidity. Once the birds lift off, the silence feels heavier than the bullets ever did. You're reassigned to patrol the outskirts of a hamlet called Commoy, a place that looks peaceful from a distance, with water buffalo grazing and kids flying kites made from banana leaves. But you've learned that looks are lies out here. Even the quietest village can hold a tripwire. You walk point on a rice paddy trail, careful to only step where the man before you did. Frank mutters, this whole place is just one big booby trap with better landscaping. And is not wrong. You pass a pile of rocks, neatly stacked, suspiciously so. Leeds nudges it with a stick. Nothing happens. Still, your stomach knots. That's the kind of paranoia that sticks with you. You start side-eyeing every bush, every water jar. One afternoon, while questioning a village elder, you spot a teenage boy watching you too closely. He darts behind a hut when you make eye contact. You follow, slow, hand on your weapon. He's gone, just like that. Later that night, your squad is woken by an explosion. A grenade tossed into your outpost perimeter. No one is killed, but the message is clear. Charlie knows where you are. You don't sleep for 2 nights after that. Every breeze feels like a threat. Every rustle sounds like footsteps. You try to remember what it was like to feel safe. You can't. Historians still debate whether this style of counterinsurgency ever worked. Hearts and minds, they said. But the hearts were afraid, and the minds were tired. Yours included. After the attack, you're rotated back to the base for morale maintenance. Which sounds fancy, but really just means you're on the verge of snapping. So here's some boredom and Kool-Aid. You spend 2 days organizing crates of rations, listening to the same Motown tape on loop. You write a letter home, but don't send it. Instead, you fold it into a paper A-plane and throw it off the roof of the supply shack. You wonder if someone will find it someday. One evening, Frank shows up with a bottle of something vaguely alcoholic. You and a few guys sit on ammo crates, passing it around, watching lightning bugs flicker over the barbed wire. Marco leans back and says, when I get out of here, I'm opening a donut shop. No war, just jelly-filled miracles. You laugh, then you realize it's serious. You nod, I'll be your first customer. Frank raises the bottle. To jelly donuts. You all clink imaginary glasses and drink. Later that night, lying on your cot under mosquito netting, you hear someone crying in the bunk next to you. You pretend to be asleep, because that's the rule. You hear it. You never mention it. You just let it float into the dark. You get orders to move again. This time, it's not convoy escort or hamlet patrol. It's a sweep and clear mission near the Cambodian border. The kind where you walk for miles through grass taller than your head, jump at every branch crack, and ask yourself every hour, why am I still alive? The jungle here feels meaner, denser, hotter, somehow more personal, like it's watching you. Even the insects seem more aggressive, like they're punishing you for being an intruder. And in a way, you are. This isn't your land. You're a stranger with a gun, trudging through someone else's home. You march for hours. Your pack digs into your shoulders, your boots squelch with mud, and your socks have basically surrendered. The air smells like wet leaves and old sweat. Marco, ever the optimist, starts giving your group tropical storm names. Hurricane Grumper Pants for leads, Cyclone Flatulence for tank. You're dubbed Typhoon Existential Dread. Fair. That night, your unit sets up a perimeter on a muddy ridge. There's no moon, just the sounds of frogs and distant thunder. It feels like you're camping, if camping included claymore mines and the knowledge that someone might try to kill you in your sleep. You take the second watch shift. You sit with your back to a tree, rifle across your knees, eyes scanning the dark that never really ends. Every now and then, you think you see movement, but it's just your mind playing tricks. Or maybe it isn't. The enemy knows the terrain, knows how to move without being seen. You're just a heavy-footed guest blundering through their living room. You return to the village the next day. It looks unchanged, but there's a weird hush in the air, like even the chickens are holding their breath. Lead swears he saw a new face, an old man with one eye and a smirk. The guy disappears before anyone else spots him. Something feels off. You don't know what, but your gut won't shut up about it. Sure enough, that night, another ambush. Not a big one, just a few pops of gunfire, a tripwire flare, and 2 guys wounded. But it's enough. It shakes everyone up again. You find yourself growing suspicious, not just of the jungle, but of people. The farmer with too many questions. The kid who always waves too enthusiastically. The woman who smiles just a little too long. It's not fair, but it's how you survive. Frank puts it best one evening as he scrubs mud off his boots. This place rewires you. Makes you see ghosts in daylight and enemies in birthday parties. You laugh, but is not really joking. One day, you come across an abandoned village. No people, no livestock, just open doors and scattered bowls of food. Like everyone got up mid-bite and vanished. Marco whispers, creepy as hell, and he's right. You search the huts. Nothing valuable. Just clothes, family photos, incense burned down to nubs. You find a child's notebook with English phrases written in shaky handwriting. My name is Lan. I am 10-year-old. I like dog. You pocket it. For some reason, it feels important. That night, the squad is unusually quiet. Even Tank, who normally snores like a lawnmower, just lies there, staring at the sky. You all feel it. The weird, eerie weight of whatever this war actually is. Historians still argue whether these abandoned villages were cleared by force or emptied by fear. Maybe both. Maybe people just got tired of playing the guessing game. Stay and get caught between sides. Leave and maybe survive. One morning, during a routine sweep, you trip a wire. Click. You freeze. Everyone else freezes too. Nobody breathes. The click is unmistakable. It's a trap. You don't know what kind yet, but you know the rule. Move wrong, and you're done. Marco inches over, eyes locked on yours. Don't move, he whispers. He slides down next to you, inspects the area, and carefully brushes away leaves and dirt. It's a pungy trap, wooden spikes in a pit, rigged with a tripwire and a weighted lid. Nasty, but avoidable. If you're lucky, he disarms it slowly, then gently tugs you back. When you're clear, everyone exhales like you all just surfaced from deep underwater. You try to thank Marco. He just shrugs and says, "Owe me a jelly donut, man." Deal. Later, while checking the map, Leeds points out that you're within half a mile of the Cambodian border, which means technically, this mission is flirting with an international incident. You ask, do we cross it? He smirks. Not officially. Unofficially, that line's as blurry as the rest of this war. Over the next few days, things spiral into a weird rhythm. Trudge, sweat, sleep, almost die. Then repeat. Your hands are always dirty, your back always sore. Your rifle feels more like a body part than a tool. You name it. Everyone does. Yours is Rosie. Leeds calls his Susan. Tank, for reasons no one understands, names his Barbara Streisand. One afternoon, you find a half-buried VC propaganda leaflet. It's hand-drawn, faded, but still legible. It shows a cartoon GI skeleton slumped over next to a burning helicopter. The caption says, "Go home before it's you." You keep it, not out of faith, just curiosity. That night, you look at it by flashlight, then fold it into the back of your notebook, right next to Land's English practice page. You don't know what it means yet, but something about it feels like the truth. You wake up to a letter. Well, technically, a bundle of them, full from home, folded together with a rubber band and a faint smell of dry sheets. They came in with the morning supply drop, along with stale crackers and a single warm can of Sprite. You save the Sprite for later, like it's some sacred relic. The first letter is from your mom. You read it slowly, letting her words sink in like warm soup. She tells you about the neighbor's cat getting stuck in a gutter, about the church bake sale, and how Mrs. Ellis is still wearing that awful feathered hat even though everyone's too polite to say anything. She ends with, "Come home safe, sweetheart. The backyard's not the same without your footsteps." You fold that one with K. That one stays close to your heart. The next is from your kid sister. It's mostly drawings of a horse, a smiley sun, and what you think might be a tank. She captions it, "I hope you ride one of these." You laugh, loud enough that Marco glances over and raises a curious brow. You shake your head, just cavalry support. But the one that really hits you, it's from your buddy back home, Mike. He didn't get drafted, got a college deferment. He writes about a party they had, about girls you both used to flirt with, about how weird it feels to be stateside while you're out there doing real stuff. He ends with, "Just don't die." All right, that would really suck. You reread that line twice. It's weird, what gets to you out here? Not bullets, not booby traps, but that simple reminder, people are waiting. That afternoon, you sit on an overturned ammo crate and finally drink the warm Sprite. It's awful, syrupy, flat, with a hint of metal. But somehow, it tastes like peace. You sip it like it's the last luxury left in the world. Then the clouds roll in. Not metaphorical ones, actual clouds. Heavy, pregnant with rain, low enough to brush the treetops. And then it just dumps. A tropical monsoon, turning everything to soup in seconds. You and your squad scramble under ponchos, but it's pointless. Your boots flood. Your helmet feels like a cereal bowl. Frank just lies back and lets it happen, laughing like a madman. "Nature's shower," he shouts. "No soap required." You're soaked to the bone, but there's something cleansing about it. Something human. For once, it's not war trying to kill you. It's just the weather doing its thing. After the rain dies down, you wring out your shirt and smell like wet dog and mildew. Leeds, ever resourceful, uses his helmet as a bucket to catch leftover rainwater for shaving. You pass. You don't remember the last time you cared about shaving. The next day brings a new kind of dread, body count patrol. This isn't the glorious stuff from war movies. This is slow, grueling work. Walk a grid, count bodies, friendly or not. Identify, tag, report. You spend hours stepping over the fallen, some days old, some barely cold. One body still holds a grenade, pin pulled, just beneath the fingers. You call for the EOD team. It's a cruel trick the VCs sometimes use. Leave the dead as bait, hoping curiosity or kindness triggers a second kill. You don't fall for it. Not anymore. You count 12 dead, mostly NVA regulars. One American, young, maybe younger than you. You find his dog tags tangled in the grass. James R. Holloway. You whisper his name out loud. It feels wrong not to. You and Frank dig a shallow grave and mark it with a ration box, scrawled with charcoal. Holloway, the 12th of April. You can't carry him. There's no room. You promise to report it to Graves Registration. You don't tell him you're sorry. You just are. That night, as you clean your weapon, Marco shares a rumor. Paris peace talks might be progressing. Rumor is, he says, we could all be out by Christmas. Yeah. Pank snorts. What yeah? Historians still argue about the effectiveness of those talks. whether they dragged on too long or accomplished too little. But to you, in that moment, it's hope. Fragile, ridiculous hope, but you take it anyway. The next morning, you hear the unmistakable thump 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 of incoming helicopters. Medevac. No, transport. A whole new squad of green recruits is being dropped in. Wide-eyed, shiny boots. One of them is still clutching a pack of Skittles from the PX like it's a souvenir from Disneyland. You and Frank exchange a look. That same old joke floats between you. Unspoken. Let's see how long they last. You're assigned to show one of them the ropes. His name's Walker, barely 19. Talks about muscle cars and how his girlfriend has a dog named Muffin. You want to tell him Muffin won't write back, but you don't. You just show him how to check for tripwires and how to pee facing downhill. You wonder if that's kindness or cruelty. The squad moves out again the next day. Another patrol, another patch of nameless jungle. You walk behind Walker, double-checking his footsteps, thinking, was I ever that young? Probably. You just don't remember anymore. As the sun sets, you settle into a defensive position on a ridge overlooking the valley. You dig your foxhole, light a cigarette you found crushed in your sock, and lean back against the earth. The fireflies come out again, and for a moment, just a flicker of time, you feel okay. Not happy, not safe, but okay. The jungle hums its weird lullaby, and the sky glows a soft, hazy purple. Marco wanders over and tosses you a pack of peanut butter crackers. Found these in a ration box, he says. Vintage 1964. You chuckle. That's older than Walker. You eat in silence, savoring every crumb like it's your last meal on Earth. It might be. You've stopped expecting to sleep through the night. By now, it's routine. Drift off for 20 minutes. Wake up from a dream where the jungle is chasing you. Do a perimeter check. Maybe snack on a melted Tootsie Roll if you're lucky. Repeat until sunrise. Your body adjusts, but your brain, not so much. It's always on edge, like a car idling in neutral with a cinder block on the gas pedal. Tonight, you on watch with Walker. You keep half an eye on him, just in case. He's doing okay, nervous but alert. You remember your own first night watch, how every chirping gecko sounded like a sniper. At least this kid hasn't dropped his rifle yet. Do they really have cobras out here? He whispers. You glance at the tree line. Yeah, but it's the bamboo viper you should worry about. Real small, real quiet. Makes your hand swell up like a balloon if it bites you. He nods, wide-eyed. Cool, 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 cool. You smile. You've officially become someone else's nightmare mentor. Dawn comes hazy and slow, like molasses creeping over the jungle canopy. You on the move again before the sun finishes rising. Packs on backs, boots squelching in last night's rain. The mission this time is vague, interdiction and disruption, which basically means you walk in circles until something tries to kill you. Then you shoot at it. But even that barely holds your attention anymore. What you're really focused on is time. You've been in country over 9 months now. Rumors are swirling again. Early rotations, de-escalation, troop withdrawals. There's talk of Vietnamization, the plan to shift combat to South Vietnamese forces and let American units pull back. Historians still debate whether it was strategy or political theater. You just know that guys are starting to leave. Frank tells you Johnson from Echo Company shipped home last week. Just gone. No ceremony. No farewell. 1 minute he's there. The next is boarding a helicopter with a duffel bag and a grin that could split concrete. You envy that grin. At chow that evening, Leeds leans over and mutters. You hear about that firefight up in Quang Tri? Whole platoon got pinned. 6 KIA. None of them was supposed to be there. What happened? He shrugs. Wrong map. Or wrong orders. Who knows anymore? You think back to all the nights you've patrolled in darkness, trusting that some faraway officer with a radio and a cup of coffee knows where you are. Now you're not so sure. Later that week, your squad gets tasked with another river crossing. Nothing special. Just a chest-deep wade through brackish water with rifles raised and leeches making enthusiastic new friends of your thighs. Tank mutters, if I ever get back, I'm never swimming again. Halfway through, Walker freezes. You turn, see his eyes locked on something to his right. A dead water buffalo. bloated and tangled in reeds, one eye open and glossy. Its flank is riddled with small holes. Shrapnel, Frank says, or VC testing a claymore. You keep moving, but the image clings to you. The absurdity of it. A floating, exploded buffalo. Like some grotesque punchline to a cosmic joke you never got the setup for. Back on dry land, you wring out your socks and inspect your feet. Trench foot isn't a thing you thought you'd have to worry about. But now your toes are peeling like old wallpaper and your heels sting like they've been rubbed with sandpaper. You tape them up and keep walking. The next few days are relatively quiet, which feels more suspicious than lucky. You pass through villages where kids ask for candy, where old women stir pots and glance sideways at your squad, where chickens somehow survive artillery. You help rebuild a collapsed footbridge and distribute medical supplies. One of those rare missions that actually feels human. Walker treats a little boy's scraped knee with iodine and a band-aid. The kid winces, then beams. Walker beams back. You watch them, and for the first time in a while, you think maybe there's something salvageable here. Not victory, not peace, but moments. Marco says it best around the fire that night. War's like a bad novel. Every now and then, a decent sentence sneaks in. The next morning, everything changes. Radio crackles. Orders barked. Your squad is being redeployed. Urgent reinforcement near a highway ambush site. You chop it in. Rotor wash flattening the grass. Adrenaline already spiking before your boots hit the ground. What you find isn't a battlefield. It's an aftermath. Wrecked jeeps. Burned trees. A crater where someone once parked an M113 APC. And bodies, American and ARV and alike. Scattered like someone appended a game board in rage. You're tasked with collecting the dead. This time, no abstraction. No distance. Just you, rubber gloves, and the stench of sun-rotted flesh. You carry them one by one, lay them in ponchos, zip up what you can. You avoid looking at faces. Or dog tags. You focus on hands, boots, patches, anything impersonal. Except one kid. Curly head, freckles, still clutching a photo of a girl. You try to pry it loose. It tears. Frank comes over, rests a hand on your shoulder, and says, "Leave it. He earned that." You do. That night, nobody talks. You all just sit around the dim glow of a red-lensed flashlight, cleaning your rifles like rosaries. Leeds finally breaks the silence. Someone back home's gonna read a telegram tomorrow, and then they'll sit down and eat a sandwich. That's how it goes. He's not wrong. You lie back and stare at the stars. Try to remember a time when you looked up and didn't see ghosts. You don't cry. Not quite. But your chest feels hollow. Like something essential got scooped out and buried with that kid's photo. You think about home. About drive-ins and cheap burgers and your mom's silly habit of overwatering the ferns. You think, if I make it back, will I even recognize myself? Somewhere around your 10th month in country, you stop keeping track of the days. Not because you don't care. More like your brain has reshuffled its priorities. You now measure time in patrols, in how many cigarettes you have left, in how worn the heel of your right boot feels. If someone told you it was Sunday, you'd just shrug. There's no church bell out here, no breakfast pancakes to mark the occasion. Just damp socks and the weight of your rifle. Then, one afternoon, the first sergeant calls you over with that look. The look that says something's up. You walk over, already bracing for bad news. But instead, he says 6 words that sound like they belong in a dream. You're rotating out in 2 weeks. At first, you just stand there, blinking. 2 weeks. That's not even 14 days. That's not even that many patrols. It barely feels real. You nod slowly, murmur "Roger that," and walk away. But inside, you're buzzing like you just drank 10 cups of PX coffee. Frank punches your arm when he hears. "You lucky son of a..." He stops, grins. You made it. Sort of. You don't tell him you're not sure what making it means anymore. You alive. That counts. But you feel like a blurry version of yourself. Like someone took the original you and photocopied it too many times. Over the next few days, the jungle somehow feels different. Same mud, same mosquitoes, same thundering distant artillery. But now you're counting everything like it's the last time. Last morning patrol. Last awkward shave using a rain puddle. Last game of poker where Marco somehow wins with a pair of twos. It's all happening again, but this time with a weird finality. You pack slowly, methodically. You clean your rifle one last time, knowing the next guy might treat it less gently. You write a letter home, your longest one yet, and seal it with a sigh. You've saved one clean pair of socks just for the trip out. You even toss your last can of peaches into Walker's lap. You'll hate these soon enough. He grins like you just handed him gold. On your last full day in the field, the rain doesn't fall. It almost feels like a gift. A dry day. You sit on a crate near the edge of camp and listen to leads argue about who'd win in a fight between Bruce Lee and Evil Knievel. Nobody wins, but everyone laughs. You notice how much they all look older now. Even Walker's face has started to harden around the edges. Later that night, you get one more letter from home. Your mom again. She writes, "The tulips are blooming, and the neighbor's dog won't stop barking." Your sister says she's saving her allowance to buy you a welcome home cake. "We miss you. We love you." You fold that one slow. That one comes with you. Departure day isn't cinematic. No salutes. No brass band. Just a lift chopper kicking up dust and body odor as it thumps overhead. You climb in. Boots scuffed. Pack light. Helmet in your lap. Walker helps you in. You grip his forearm. "Keep your head down." He nods, trying to look brave. He's not doing a terrible job. As the chopper rises, the jungle slips away beneath you. Fast, like it's trying to shrink before your eyes. The trees, the mud, the fire bases, the ghost-riddled rice paddies, all of it compressing into a green blur. You look down and feel something heavy and hollow in your chest. You're leaving, but not all of you. The ride back to base is bumpy and loud. Inside the chopper, everyone looks stunned. Some of the guys are rotating out with you. A few are dead quiet. One is crying quietly. No shame in it. You just sit there, gripping the edge of your seat like it might disappear if you let go. Back at the re-base, it's sensory overload. Real showers, real food, air conditioning. You'd think it would feel like heaven, but mostly it feels weird. Too clean, too bright. You step into the mess hall, and someone offers you scrambled eggs that aren't gray. You stay at them like they are counterfeit. You get assigned a bunk in a transition barracks where the sheets are white and the lights have dimmer switches. There's even a vending machine in the corner that actually works. You press the button for a root beer and nearly cry when it comes out cold. That night, you lie in a real bed for the first time in months. No mosquitoes, no mortar fire, just the low hum of a refrigerator in the hallway. You keep waiting for something to explode. It doesn't. You wake up at 3 a.m. anyway, drenched in sweat. You've got a week of out-processing, paperwork, medical checks, psych evils. At one point, a well-meaning officer asks you, "How are you feeling about going home?" You look at him for a long second and say, "Clean." It's not a joke, but he laughs like it is. One day, they hand you your duffel and your final orders. You stare at the paper like it might vanish. You don't believe it's real until you're actually walking toward the runway. Duffel in one hand, your boots making echoing thuds on the concrete. The flight home is surreal. You sit in a window seat, headphones on, listening to music that feels like it belongs to another lifetime. You keep checking your armrest, your tray table, the safety card. Like if you stop touching things, you'll wake up under a poncho in the mud. The guy next to you asks where you're from. You pause. You don't answer. You're not even sure. When the wheels touch down back in the States, the whole cabin breaks into applause. You don't join in. You just look out the window, watching the terminal grow closer. Welcome home. You walk down the ramp into California air and it hits you like a brick. It smells like pavement, car exhaust, and hot dogs. Not smoke. Not wet bamboo or stagnant water. Just America. Your boots are too loud on the airport tile. Your duffel feels heavier now, though you're carrying less than you brought over. You're wearing your uniform, freshly washed, though still bearing that dull red dust in the seams that never really comes out. A woman in a pantsuit walks past you and scowls. You don't say anything, but you notice. Outside, it's sunny. Disrespectfully sunny. Like the sun didn't get the memo that you just came from hell. You squint up at it like it owes you an apology. The military bus picks you up, One of those blue ones with wire mesh windows. Inside are other guys like you. Quiet, twitchy, trying to remember how to sit still. Someone offers a pack of gum. Another shares a joke about Nixon that gets a tired laugh. Nobody really talks about what they just left. It's too close. Too loud in the memory. You're dropped off at a processing center where your name is checked, your gear is inventoried, and someone hands you a crisp manila envelope stamped discharged. Just like that. No speech. No confetti. Just a handshake from a corporal who looks 15 years old. Back on the street, you stand there for a second, blinking at the cars and people and hot dog vendors like they're part of a different planet. You want to tell someone, "Hey, I just left a place where I saw a man eat powdered eggs off the back of a Claymore mine. That was his table. His table." But instead, you just walk. Your first real meal back is at a diner near the Greyhound station. You order pancakes, bacon, coffee. The waitress calls you hon and refills your cup without asking. It's the first time anyone's been that kind to you in a long time. You almost cry over pancakes. Almost. You get a few looks. Your uniform draws attention, and not the good kind. A teenager snickers. A man at the counter mutters something about baby killers. You pretend you didn't hear it. You focus on the syrup. It's maple, real, and you can taste it, even through the dullness that's crept into your senses. Historians still argue whether returning soldiers were truly mistreated en masse, or if the stories were exaggerated later. You don't know about other guys, but for you, it's not the shouts or slurs that sting, it's the silence. It's coming home and realizing nobody knows what to say. Or worse, that they think they know. Your bus ride home is long. Through cities, suburbs, farmland. Every town looks like it's been polished since you left. Billboards advertise brands you forgot existed. There's a new soda out now. Something lemon lime. You jot that down like it's field intel. When you finally roll into your hometown station, you spot your mom waiting by the gate, her eyes glassy. She's smaller than you remember. She runs toward you like she's afraid you'll evaporate. You hug her like you're trying to reattach yourself to the world. At home, the house smells exactly the same. Laundry soap and those cinnamon candles she always overuses. Your bedroom is untouched. Like a museum exhibit, here lies civilian you. The posters on the walls feel like they were put up by someone else. The bed is made. You sit on it. It creaks like it's protesting your weight. That night, you eat roast chicken and mashed potatoes. Your dad tries to talk about the local football team. Your sister asks if you got to shoot any of the bad guys. You excuse yourself to the porch. The quiet hits harder than you expect. You thought you'd crave it. Instead, it makes your skin crawl. You sit on the porch steps, watching the neighbors sprinkle a go in slow arcs. Your palms are clenched. You don't know why. The first week back, you try to ease into the old routines. Ride your bike, visit the gas station where you used to work, catch a movie at the drive-in. But everything feels like a performance. Like you're imitating a version of yourself from an outdated commercial. You sleep on top of your covers. Still can't stay down longer than a few hours. You keep your shoes near the bed, just in case. Sometimes you wake up and reach for a rifle that isn't there. There are moments of real comfort. Like when your dog finally recognizes you and tackles you with joy. Or when your best friend says, "You're back," and hugs you too hard, and nobody says anything about the tears. But other moments, they are harder. You flinch when a car backfires. You instinctively scan crowds for exits. A kid's firecracker on the 4th of July makes you dive behind a lawn chair, and everyone laughs like it's a joke. You laugh too, but only with your mouth. Eventually, you get a job. Something simple, quiet, stocking shelves at a local store. The manager doesn't ask about the uniform or the scars, or why you stare too long at the floor sometimes. He just gives you hours and leaves you alone. You appreciate that more than you can say. One afternoon, an older veteran, World War II, judging by his gait, sees your discharge pin and nods at you. You back. You nod. He says, "Takes time," and walks away. That night, you think, maybe that's all it takes. A nod, a shared language. Not the words, but the knowing. You're not fine. Not yet. Maybe not ever in the way people want you to be. But you're here. You're breathing. You made it back. That counts. Some mornings, It almost feels normal. You pour cereal. You sit at the kitchen table in your sock feet, reading the newspaper headlines. Watergate's heating up, disco's a thing now, and the price of gas keeps climbing. You sip your coffee. You even laugh when the cat knocks a mug off the counter. For a second, you think, I'm home. Then your fork hits the plate just the wrong way, and your shoulders flinch before you can stop them. Home, sure, but your wiring's different now. You start seeing a few guys from your unit. Some live nearby, others send letters. Frank writes you from Arizona. He's fixing up cars, trying to stay sober. Walker's still in, re-upped for another tour. Says he's not ready to be around normal people just yet. You write back, I get it. Your parents start to relax, a little. They stop watching you quite so closely when you go for a walk. Your mom doesn't flinch when you stay out late anymore. People slowly stop asking how it was, and you stop offering answers. And that's fine, because how do you explain that your clearest memory is the smell of hot rice patties mixed with diesel fumes? Or that sometimes you hear a bird call and it makes your stomach turn, because it sounds too much like the jungle? Some things you just fold into yourself. You start college using your GI Bill. Sit in a classroom with kids who never left town. One of them makes a snide comment about the war during a lecture. You don't say a word. Just look out the window at the rain. Later, a professor thanks you privately for your service. You nod. It's awkward, but kind. You still carry your discharge papers in your wallet. Like proof. Like a talisman. And on some nights, in those slippery moments between wakefulness and sleep, you're back there, slogging through the muck, helmet low, ears tuned to the subtle crack of a snapped twig. You don't dream in colors anymore, mostly browns and grays, but you also remember the faces. Marco's ridiculous grin, leads with his bad knock-knock jokes, the way Frank always smuggled in peanut butter and acted like it was contraband gold. Those small, dumb things, they come back, too, like comfort food for the soul. Historians still argue whether the Vietnam War was truly unwinnable or just mishandled at the highest levels. They debate strategy, foreign policy, public opinion. But for you, and for the others, it wasn't about the politics. It was about surviving each day, each breath, each step through the leech-infested jungle, hoping your boot didn't land on a mine. Some nights you light a cigarette on the porch and look up at the stars. It's quiet here, real quiet. Too quiet, sometimes, but you're learning to sit with that silence, to stop bracing for the next shell, to let your shoulders lower, even just a little. And sometimes, when the wind is just right, you almost let yourself believe you're safe. You're different now, worn at the edges, but you've learned how to carry it. Not ignore it, not bury it, just carry it. One day you pass a park and see a group of kids playing war. Toy rifles in hand, shouting, bang. You're dead. You stop and watch for a second. They look so serious, so proud. One kid lies down, tongue sticking out for dramatic effect. You want to tell them it's not like that, but instead, you just keep walking. Hands in your pockets, head high. You let the wind push behind your back like a quiet nudge forward. Because you made it, and you're still here. Oh, word count, 1058. So now, your story slows. The jungle fades, the choppers go quiet, and the echo of boots in red mud softens into memory. You've walked with fear, with grit, with loss, and with moments of strange, stubborn hope. And here you are, back in your bed, the weight of the past settling gently beside you like an old, worn coat draped on the chair. You don't need to fight sleep tonight. You've already done your fighting. Let your breath ease. Let your muscles unwind. The flickers of memory can wait. You've earned the quiet. Maybe you still hear the occasional whisper of rain on canvas or the distant hum of a helicopter's rotors in your dreams. That's all right. They're just echoes now. Ghosts that pass through but no longer stay. The war is behind you. The night ahead is soft. Sink a little deeper into your mattress. Feel how it cradles your back. Let your shoulders melt into the pillows. There's no call to arms here. No alarm. No early patrol. Just the steady rhythm of your breathing. Slower now. Steadier. Each inhale drawing peace. Each exhale letting go. The fan hums gently. The world outside fades into a comfortable hush, and within that hush, you find your stillness. You're safe. You're home. And now, you can rest. End of script. Sweet dreams.